Welcome to the ice cream interviews, Theo Crous. It's 8:30 in the morning. Have you ever eaten an ice cream with a good mate 8:30 in the morning?
I don't think so. I told my wife now, I said, I'm about to eat the ice cream. And she was like, what? But before that you slapped 3 times to, what do you call it? To sync the audio.
To sync the audio.
I was thinking of it, that's what you got at school for stupid stuff, like not even for like, you know, being caught masturbating, whatever, you know. It was like, oh, I forgot ek het my geskiedenisboek vergeet. Oh, okay, ja, gaan kry vir jou 'n paar klappe. Or I spoke too loudly to Ivan in class. Like, hey Ivan, gaan na jou voog toe gaan kry 'n paar
Kry 6 houe.
Ja, it's like,
go
en as jy 'n skoolbank kan kry 'n bietjie meer.
But do you think that's why we have a culture, especially our generation, because we're the same age, where guys just drink too much and get addicted?
I think so.
Easily.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily anybody's fault in terms of, I don't blame a teacher. I actually saw a teacher of mine the other day at a show, and it was so nice to see him, and I know he beat the shit out of me, but it's not his fault. He was following a protocol in the school system that he had to do. I mean, I can say that some of them liked it more than the others. Some of them must have liked it more than others. And some of them must have been like, you know. So, but yeah.
And your parents, did you get? Were you scared of your dad?
I never knew my father.
You never knew your father?
Yeah, my father. This is my father.
No, that's new.
Yeah, that's nice. That's
I thought it was Neil Sandilands 6 months.
It would have been weird if it was with Neil Sandilands. It's my father, and he died 2 months before I was born. So basically, my brothers kind of raised me and told me stuff that I think a boy should hear from his father.
Do you think that abandonment went into anxiety, into addiction?
Mm-hmm. Something I saw that was very interesting the other day is, do you know a doctor called Gabor Mate?
Yeah, love him.
He wrote this book.
I discovered him when I was in rehab.
Yeah, so he wrote this book on ADHD called Scattered Minds.
Sure.
And he has he has some proof as well that the fetus, when the fetus is in stress. So remember, my father died 2 months before I was born.
Yeah,
so my mom had an enormous amount of stress on her, and he had a correlation between the unborn fetus and addiction. Fetus is going through stress. Unborn children going through stress,
yeah.
and addiction. I don't know exactly how probably a proper medical doctor will be able to link the two, but I know.
No, he does a lot of case studies.
So I know he linked the two.
Yeah.
And once again, it's not anybody's fault. It's not my mom's fault. My mom was a very good mother to me. But I can understand. She had 4 children. She had this one child that was just born. She had a husband that just died, and she had all these people all these humans to worry about. No man,
yeah,
or no partner. I think man is probably appropriate for the 60s, but now it would be partner.
Whatever you identify
Whatever you identify as.
today.
Yes.
Like I'm your
A man, dress yourself as a rabbit.
I'm your rabbit
Yes.
man eat partner.
Yes.
Yeah, so according to Gabor Maté, that all addictions come from childhood trauma,
Yeah.
which moves into anxiety. And I mean, we don't have to talk about this too long over ice cream, but I mean, you were the first guy that I phoned and I said, listen, this and this and this, what do you think? And you went like, yeah, you need to go to the rehab, which I went and it kind of like changed my life. It opened up that rabbit hole of self-discovery and self-love and but only 3 years later I started really focusing on the root of what caused that anxiety, and that I realize now that I have lived in fear and anxiety, fear of failure, fear of I'm not good enough for most of my life because of being overly loved by parents. Also by the parents that was not parents that was absent because of their own fight for survival and careers
I think it was
and whatever. But
we had a different time. And my mom, missed there. My mom worked for an insurance company for I think 45 years to look after us, and so there was no one in the day that could look after us. It's not a case of like feeling sorry for me because I had to go through all that shit. That was normal. It was just normal, and there was lots of other single parents. Kids walked home from school, made themselves a sandwich, did their homework.
After I was born, I was dropped off at a daycare mother.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people would go like it's child abuse because you've got that 2-year period that the mother needs to be with the child and whatever.
So I wouldn't want my mom to ever think that she did something wrong at any time through that time, because that is just what you had.
Yeah.
She had 4 children.
Yeah.
If I've got 2 children, my wife went away for 3 weeks on holiday, and I had to look after these motherfuckers for 3 weeks and work, and I lost my mind. And I had help. So I can't even imagine being the 4 children, no help, and work.
Yeah.
I will lose.
Sure.
I will lose. I mean,
Sure.
it's for any person.
Sure.
You know, and then you obviously get people that are much, much poorer on the poorer scale that has got the same things. 4 children. You know, we at least had food, and you know, we had some semblance of normality. But there were people that were, excuse me, that were far worse than we were off. You know. So, and it was a different time. But I do think that a lot of males our age went through some form of trauma, whether it was the corporal punishment school system, whether it was abuse by your father, and in that time it wasn't called abuse. It was just called he's naughty, he's a naughty kid, he's gonna get a hiding, and it's really up to the parent to decide how hard that hiding is gonna be. He can beat you, he can physically almost kill you and say it was a beating. You know, say it was life stuff.
Yeah. So I started dealing with that only recently, where I started talking about it. I got forced. That was my next phase in a recovery sense, you know, of what's the root of this anxiety that we spoke about now. But then I also thought the way he grew up was like, gosh, he got tied to tables and stuff until my grandfather got home.
That's crazy.
For him to get a hiding. So obviously that's you know.
Yeah.
But in that case, we don't have to go too deep into
But that
into
can also
consulting each other.
No, but it can all play a role
On-
in various stages of addiction. Is where we started, and what I have learned from talking about addiction in formats such as these ones, where you talk about your own experiences, is just to say that there literally is never any guarantee that you can, as a drug addict, say that you will be clean forever. That is a misconception, and I think that puts pressure on the addict themselves. I'm not saying it's an excuse to go and relapse and use drugs, but there's no such promise that you can keep. I could never keep that promise. So it's a daily thing. It's a daily commitment.
One day at a time.
Yeah, it's a daily commitment. And you make and the days turn into years, and the years, turn into decades, and but the publicly talking about stuff like this is almost like an affirmation. And I'm always scared to do it because you're declaring to another part of the population that you have been clean of drugs since then. So what happens if I have to relapse tomorrow, and people see this interview, and they're like, "Oh, look at him there. He said he was clean, and look at him now."
Yeah, but that's
it's an enormous amount of weight to carry around, and
yeah, but it's also a responsibility for you to say, listen, it's like I think it's like getting married. It's like starting a relationship.
Yeah.
Spiritually as well. It's like that the promise. So I think, and this is what this is about. This is what the ice cream interviews are about, for people to start talking about their emotions and about, so that we all realize that we're actually just rowing the same boat, that you can't be judged for not being perfect or not being normal or not being okay, because no one is okay. There's not one person that's okay. So
I know of one person that thinks he's okay, but he's just crazy.
Who's that?
No, I can't say. Yes. There's one of my friends.
Is it a mutual friend of ours?
There's one of my friends that says there's nothing wrong with him, and I say, "You're definitely crazy," and he says there's nothing wrong with me, and I think you might know him as well. And the jury's out whether he's right or I'm right. So I might be wrong. He might be perfect. I don't know. But that's what he says, and that's what I say to him. I say, you know what? Crazy people say that.
I think the idea is, I mean, since I started talking about my childhood trauma, which when I started talking to my mom, my dad passed away like 26 years ago, and when I started talking to my mom, she looked at me, but what trauma did you have? As if she goes like,
because
she's so in denial in any case, and she's fragile and she's old and whatever. So I can't really talk to her about
it's a different time.
The fact that I got emotionally and I mean, at 48, I still don't know whether I'm good enough. At 48, I still don't know whether I'm doing stuff the right way, because my dad used to say like, no, do it this way. No, you're doing it wrong. And it's not just me. I've realized that because I started talking about it. And the more I talk about it, the more I feel like I can be myself. I don't have to hide. I don't have to pretend.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of various impacts on my addiction. I mean, the one is me and Lauder Liebenberg actually joke about is the fact that my father died before, and we have this running joke that everything that's wrong with me is attributed to my father not being there. But that's a joke. I mean,
but it's not a joke.
Well, it's not a joke between me and him, but the reality is, if you haven't grown up without a father, you would not know how it is growing up without a father.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
do whatever and joke about it, and do whatever you want, but it had a tremendous effect on me as a kid, because there was no one to tell me certain things, and it is not anybody's fault. It's not anybody's doing. It's just that person wasn't there, So,
and that's another thing that Gabor Maté says. If something is valuable to you, you spend time with it, okay, and that's where abandonment comes from. If you don't treat something as valuable, okay, that's Gabor Maté. That's it. So with Lado's ice cream interview, he said, listen, my dad was a minister. He cared more about his congregation and bring the people to the love of God, etc. In my case, my dad was a school principal.
Yeah.
He had to look more after other people's kids than his own kids.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are going to watch this and go like, "Wow, you're such a."
I wonder if we should retake this and not say Laudu, but I don't think it minds. I mean,
Ladu's Ladu.
Yeah.
And that's what he said in his ice cream interview. Yeah. But in any case, so it just shows you that we all have the same, and we don't talk about it because we're so proud and we're so embarrassed about it. I used to be embarrassed about it.
Yeah, well, if one person laughs about it, then immediately you're also embarrassed about it and you laugh.
I used to be embarrassed to say to people, I get depressed. I was super shameful for 3 years. For 3 years after I came out of rehab, I was so ashamed of using substances and drinking myself into a pulp. Yeah. I mean, I phoned you the one day and I went like, how do I get over the shame? It's been 3 years. How do I get over the shame? And how did I get over the shame? I started talking about it at last.
Yeah.
I started posting photos of myself on Facebook again. And just go like, hi guys, I'm here. I'm proud of myself. I actually like myself. It's a process, but
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that we do as in the addiction in our addict form that we're not proud of, and that we need to forgive ourselves with. And some of those aspects takes years to forgive yourself for. Some addicts have done worse things than I did, and I've done worse things than that. It's not a what would they say in recovery? It's not a war story. It's there are certain consequences for what you did, but there's certain stuff that you did that you maybe are gonna struggle with till the day you die. And there are some stuff that you can actually have the opportunity to go to someone and sit them down and ask for forgiveness. And also that is not always a guarantee that they will forgive you. The chances are that they might tell you to fuck off. And then you have to deal with it. It's not about it's about me having the opportunity to ask for forgiveness. I'm not saying I'm sorry. I'm asking for forgiveness. It's up to the other person to say whether they're going to accept my
not apology.
Whether they're going to forgive me or not.
Sure.
And it's in their they totally in their it's totally okay for them to say I can't forgive you, and then I have to live with it. It's something that I have to live with.
How did you forgive yourself? Was that easy?
I think there's certain stuff that I still struggle to forgive myself for. People are hurt. I don't mean physically, but emotionally hurt, and
stuff that I can probably not, you know, it's a work in progress. It's not a like, oh, it's going to get better, you know. It obviously helped when I entered a healthy relationship with my wife, when I met my wife, and I learned for the first time what a healthy relationship is. And so all these other relationships I had specifically with women was all crazy relationships, you know, whether it was me or them or us together, whatever. The concept of what a relationship's supposed to be like, about giving each other space and respecting each other's time and what sex is about. You know, like that concept I never had. Like it was weird, like when I was in this band, like my concept of a sexual relationship was...
That's now in Springbok Nude Girl.
Was in Springbok, yeah, was my concept of a relationship was mainly sex. There was other stuff, but it was
and food.
And food and drugs. But it was based around a whole other a bunch of principles that I no longer care for. How people look, what they are doing, what social status they have, how cool they are, how much drugs do they consume, are we on the same like level that way, you know, like all that kind of stuff where and of course sex plays a role, but the misunderstanding of what sex is for, it's an act of love towards another person.
Yeah, it's actually it should be a spiritual act as well.
Yeah, and so that form of relationship I only started having when I had it with my wife. When I met my wife, when we met each other, we were friends for a long time before anything physically between us two happened, and we made I think we unconsciously made that decision, but it was the first time that kind of happened, and so the relationship was based on a friendship. Rather than just meeting and having sex, or meeting and sleeping together, or being drunk for a week and then sleeping together. And like, I think all those principles.
Oh, nice to laugh.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people meet that way, and they're still successfully married. But for me, you know, I had to go.
But I mean, I know Michelle, and I know, you know, I walked in here this morning and I went like, gosh, how do you guys do this? How do you guys stay so in love all the time?
Yeah, I think
what you're saying now, you know, a lot of people might be together for 4 years, but how well do they actually know each other? How well do they know each other's sufferings? Because that's how you really know a person.
Yes.
Yeah, as if you know. Yeah.
And it should be.
But I know
it should be. I mean, marriage is work. I wouldn't say hard work. Like hard work, I think, can be difficult at times, but for me it's a pleasure waking up and seeing my wife. It's not a I have to work on this today with my wife because this is like, I don't have that feeling towards the relationship with my wife now that what I had. Earlier relationship was like, I have to sort this out today because this is a problem. I have to sort this out today because this is a problem.
Yeah.
Now, it's a mutual building on something spiritual. So when you talk about stuff, you're talking from a we perspective. It's not an I perspective. Certainly, I've got certain needs, and she's got certain needs. Together, if we are looking at what we mutually need and putting each other's selfishness aside, that can sometimes be difficult. because by nature I'm selfish.
Yeah, our egos.
You know,
goes
my
back to
ego
that,
is
yeah.
selfish, and I need,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes it takes it like a day or two to settle in. Like, okay, what I need at this point and what she needs is two different things, and maybe I need to put my needs aside today, for the value of this relationship. I can deal, what I have to deal with today is not as important as what hers is. And there are some days where I need her more. So,
And then you tell her that.
yes. And then we have a discussion about it. And
You're not like this tough guy going like, I don't need anyone.
yeah.
I used to be like that.
I think
Yes, I would die inside, but I won't tell anyone.
So I think stubbornness, and I can be stubborn. Me and Michelle and I have got a way of working through if there's an issue, we would take a day and we would think about it. We would not communicate. Well, I mean, our day will go on and say good
But you'll
morning
go
and hello,
consciously, you'll tell each other, listen, this happened.
So
Go think about it, I'll go think about it,
Yeah.
and then we'll come
let's
back,
think about it
sit around the
for a
table,
couple
and
of
we'll talk
days.
about it.
And after a couple of days, we talk about it, and we'll talk about it in a more sensible.
But it's because you are
sensible
sober
way,
people.
Yeah, I mean, it
think-
it
I think
helps. It
it
helps
helps.
if you're not on. It helps if you're
If you
not
don't-
on a
Exactly.
substance, because
if you're in a relationship where
know.
you consume a lot of alcohol, then that's
Yeah.
not going to happen, because you're going to be so emotionally, you're going to thrive on your emotions the whole time.
yeah, I think.
I think.
I think.
I mean,
so
I'm not a
too.
psychologist or something,
No, but I think.
but I've been to the radio.
Even if you look at previous relationships of mine, it was purely based on how fucked I can get.
Yeah.
And so whoever was just with me or without me at that stage just went with.
Yeah.
And either got fucked with me, or
Yeah.
I left at home, or whatever. It was a purely selfish act. And you could barely formulate that into a kind of relationship more than a... than an act-
Everything was,
You know, everything was around...
you measured everything. I realized, I think it was about 2 years ago, I went to church, I did Nagmaal.
Yeah.
What's it in English? Mass.
Mass. I think it's
But that's a
Catholics
do
call it mass.
But
What do you call
breaking
it
the
again?
bread and
Yeah, well, what do you
and the
call
wine,
it
but
in
Nagmaal.
Afrikaans? Nagmaal.
And I took the sherry without thinking about it, and I drank the sherry. The first thing that happened in my mind, and that's the first time I realized how, when you've got an addiction, when you've got an addictive, not just a personality but a mind, because an addictive mind works on its own as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's measurable. You measure everything. So as I took that sherry, I started thinking about how much of this do I need to feel a certain way, to feel confident, and just
Yeah.
automatically. And I went like, oh my word. Which was quite, that's
Yeah.
after 2 years, 2 years of not having alcohol, not having anything.
Yes.
That's how my mind works.
Yeah. I mean.
So I mean, I used to go like I used to drive on an empty tank and go like, let's see how far we can take this empty tank.
There's actually a Seinfeld episode where they test drive the Saab,
That's what addict.
and Kramer and this test driver see how far they can get before the car runs out of petrol.
Yeah. So
You
I used to go like, yes,
Yeah.
let's see if I can make the petrol
I actually
station.
still do that.
I don't do that anymore.
I do that. I go like, I can throw in petrol here from town at Monte Vista, but if I wait a bit longer, I can refill at Panorama.
Yeah.
And if I'm at Panorama, I go, might as well just drive home.
Yeah. And how many
And
times?
then I leave the car for my wife to go, is there petrol in the car? And I go, I think you need to drive straight to the gas station. Because then you might...
And how many times have you actually not made it to the station?
I've not made it once.
Once, yeah.
Once I've not made it. Twice. I had this I had this, at one stage I was rebuilding old cars, or put it this way, people helped me to rebuild cars. It wasn't me. It was other cool people like Carl Ebel and Dave Kopke and Melvin Stradom. Those people helped me to rebuild cars. And I had this 69 Mustang, and it was a very cool car. It got featured on SA Hot Rod magazine, and it was tested, and it was beautiful. But it was so heavy on petrol that I filled up. I don't think I filled up to the brim, but I put a substantial amount of gas in the car on our way to town, and halfway back from town we ran out of gas. Like, that's how heavy that car was on petrol. I don't know if it did 2 kilos to
Yeah,
a
those things
liter
are-
or something.
Yeah.
You know, and so that car was literally, you couldn't go far with that car. I wouldn't even call it a Sunday drive car unless you're really easy on the petrol.